Hi guys, how's it going? This is Murtaza from A Coder's Journey, and this is the next video of my Mastering NgRx in Angular series. If you haven't watched the previous videos, please make sure you do. And in this video, we are going to talk about state management and why we need state management. And of course, as I told you in the previous videos, NgRx is all about state management, right? So before we get into the nitty-gritty details of NgRx, I think it's best if we talk about a little bit about state management and why we need state management in our applications. In the realm of web development, state management refers to the management of data within an application. So a state means data, or the collection of the data which represents, right, the state actually of your application. So in Angular applications, state represents the current condition of the user interface, user interactions, and the data displayed. So what data we display in the pages, what the user interface is all about, and what interactions does the user have with our application, these are state, right? So as applications of course become more complex, we need a structured, efficient way to handle these state and the changes that occur in the state. Now, consider the following scenarios where effective state management is crucial in our web applications. First and foremost, user interaction. So, of course, users interact with our applications. They click on buttons. They select an option from a drop-down box. They click on a checkbox. As users interact with an application, like clicking buttons, filling out forms, navigating through the different pages of your application, the state of the application dynamically changes. So managing these changes systematically, of course in large scale applications with hundreds of components, is essential for a smooth UX or user experience. Next, asynchronous operations. Of course, modern applications involve asynchronous operations like reading data from a server, fetching data from an HTTP endpoint. Coordinating these operations with the application state requires a well-defined strategy. So the next one, component communication. We all know that our Angular applications are composed of different components, and these components more often than not need to communicate with one another. In Angular, these components need to communicate with each other. A centralized state management solution ensures a consistent and reliable way for components to share and retrieve data. So these are the three most important scenarios, in my opinion, why we need an efficient approach to state management. One more time, user interactions. We talked about the fact that users interact with our applications all the time by visiting different pages, by clicking on, buttons, by filling out forms. If we want to manage these changes, these dynamic changes that occur based on the interactions of the user, we need a robust strategy for our state management. Next, asynchronous operations. Every modern web application from time to time needs to carry out some asynchronous operations like fetching some data from an endpoint. So coordinating these asynchronous operations with the state of the application again necessitates a well-defined strategy. Last but not least, component communication. We have several components, right? If not hundreds of components in our applications, and these components more often than not need to communicate with one another. In order to have a consistent and reliable way for components to communicate, to share and retrieve data, we need a robust and centralized state management solution. Now I'm gonna end this video here. Again, I am telling you guys, if you haven't watched my previous videos about NgRx, please make sure you do. In the next video, we're gonna talk about managing a state without a library. So we know that we need to manage a state, but what are the challenges of of not using a library and doing everything manually? We're going to talk about that in the next video. Till then, keep coding, stay awesome, and if you haven't already subscribed to A Coder Journey, please make sure you do.